Okay, think about this. We spend years of our lives in school learning what to study, but how much time do we spend learning how to study? Almost none, right? Well, that's about to change. We're going to get into the actual science of learning and how you can use it to remember. Well, pretty much anything. You know the feeling you spend hours, maybe even all night, cramming for a big test. You feel pretty good about it. But then, a week later, it's like it all just vanished. It's incredibly frustrating. But here's the thing. It's not you. It's not your brain. It's the methods you've been taught to use. And this slide, this gets right to the heart of it. On the left, you've got all the stuff that feels like real work, right? Highlighting, rereading your notes over and over. It makes you feel like you're getting somewhere. But the research is crystal clear. The stuff on the right, the techniques that are a little harder, a little more effortful, that's what actually builds lasting knowledge.
So let's dive into section 1 and ask the big question. Why do we keep using these bad habits? Well, it's because our brains are really good at tricking us, thanks to something called the illusion of competence.
Here's how it works. When you reread a chapter, the words start to look familiar. It's easy to process. Your brain then makes a huge mistake. It confuses that feeling of ease, that fluency, with actual understanding. But ask yourself this. Is recognizing a term that's sitting right there on the page the same as pulling that definition out of your head during an exam? No way, not even close. Okay, so how do we fight that illusion and actually learn things for real? It all boils down to two golden rules. Seriously, these two principles from cognitive science are the bedrock of everything that works. Get these right and you're already way ahead of the game. Rule number 1 is active recall. This is the complete opposite of passive rereading. It means closing the book, putting away your notes, and forcing your brain to retrieve the information. It's a struggle. It's like a workout for your brain cells. And every time you successfully pull out a memory, you're literally strengthening the path to it, making it easier to find next time. So just how effective is this brain workout? Well, a landmark study decided to find out, and the results are just staggering. Students who used active recall were tested on how much they remembered after 1 week. The number they found was a whopping 80%. And look at this comparison. I mean, it's not even a fair fight. The active recall group remembered 80% of the material. The group that just kept rereading, only 34%. That difference is the testing effect in action. It proves that the effort of remembering is what makes memories stick. Now for the second golden rule, spaced repetition. Here's the secret. Your brain is actually built to forget. It's a feature, not a bug, called the forgetting curve. Spaced repetition is how we hack that system. By reviewing information at just the right moment, right before you're about to forget it, you basically tell your brain, hey, pay attention, this is important, and you flatten that curve. So what does this actually look like? It doesn't mean cramming every day, far from it. You learn something on day 1, then you review it a couple of days later, then maybe a week later, then 2 weeks. You space out the reviews over longer and longer intervals. Each time you do this, you make the memory stronger and more permanent, and you actually end up studying less overall. All right, so now we've got our foundation, active recall and spaced repetition. It's time to build on that. Let's get into the ultimate study toolkit with 4 super powerful techniques that you can start using today. First up, the Feynman technique. This one is pure genius in its simplicity. You just take a concept and try to explain it to someone, or even just yourself, in the simplest terms possible, like you're teaching a little kid. The magic happens when you get stuck. That moment where you go, wait, how does that part work again? That's gold. You've just found the exact edge of your understanding. Next is interleaving. Now, this one's going to feel a little weird because it goes against everything we normally do. Blocked practice is when you study all of topic A, then all of B, then all of C. Interleaving means you mix it all up in one session. It's harder. It feels less productive, but trust me, the science is undeniable. This method builds deeper, more flexible knowledge that you can actually apply. Technique number 3 is dual coding. Think of your brain as having 2 different channels for taking in information, one for words and one for visuals. When you use both at the same time, like drawing a diagram while you read a definition, you're encoding that memory in 2 different places. This creates a much stronger connection and gives you 2 ways to recall it later. And for our last tool, let's talk about what the pros do. The people who compete in memory championships, the ones who can memorize decks of cards in seconds. An unbelievable 90% of them use this next technique.
It's called the method of Loci, or the memory palace. It sounds complicated, but it's not.
You're basically hijacking your brain's incredible spatial memory. You pick a place you know really well, like your house. Then you mentally place vivid, weird images of the things you want to remember at different spots. To remember them, you just take a mental walk through your house. It's incredibly powerful.
So we have the rules, we have the tools, but the real power comes from putting them all together. How do you combine these into a coherent system that works for you? Let's build one.
Here's a super simple 4-step framework. First, when you encounter new information, you encode it deeply using things like dual coding and the Feynman technique. Second, you consolidate it by making flashcards or trying to teach it to a friend. Third, you work on long-term retention with spaced repetition and interleaving. And finally, you test your application by doing actual practice problems. Now, you can do all of that perfectly. You can have the best system in the world. But if you miss this one final, forgotten step, all that hard work could literally disappear. This is your brain's big, red save button. And here's the critical fact, the one that changes everything. That intense study session, that feeling of focus, that's not actually when the long-term memory gets built. That's right. All that crucial work of filing away what you learned, of making it permanent, happens when you're asleep. Here's what happens. While you're in a deep sleep, your brain is hard at work. It replays the important events of the day and moves those memories from fragile short-term storage to secure long-term storage. So that all-nighter before a test, it's the worst thing you can possibly do. You're essentially skipping the final save command for all your hard work. So there you have it, the science, the tools, and the complete system. You now know more about how to learn effectively than 99% of people out there. The only question left is, what are you going to do with it? Which one of those comfortable but useless old habits, like mindlessly rereading, are you going to ditch first? That part is up to you.